Thanks for joining our webinar today. We continue our series of technical webinars. And last two webinars, we did deep overview of JavaScript architecture in OroCRM as well as entities architecture. And in today's webinar, we will cover OroCRM customization topic. Basically, we will show how to build your custom solution based on OroCRM. And today we have Ivan Shakuta as a presenter, and he will walk us through the webinar in the next couple of minutes. So Ivan, I think we can start.
Okay, hi everyone. Let's start our webinar. So today's topic is generating bundle with com command, or as I said, manually. And you have to keep in mind these 2 points that I mentioned about routing and bundle registration. Another way about bundle registering that is always important is bundle priority. So let's switch to code now and see what is basic bundle and how priority can be defined. During this webinar we will see the code as well as slides. So for example, in our sample customization application we have few bundles here, and just 2 files required, as I already said. For our simple bundle, which is just webinar demo bundle class, and to register it, we have to create bundle UML. Just define bundle class and priority. You can always, sure, you can omit priority, but it's useful when you want to be sure that your bundle will be registered at the end or after some of the bundle you want to customize. Generally, in OroCRM application, it's a good choice creating new bundle with priority from 200 or more. Or if you customize some bundle, it's better to just put priority larger than parent bundle. Let's proceed to creating entity and basic CRUD. For those of you who know how to create it manually, it's no surprise here about generation. There's no specific tasks that you need to do in Oro, but you have to keep in mind that you should create entity first and only then generate CRUD. Let's briefly see how our sample entity looks like. We'll talk about our entities a little bit later. After entity prepared, we have to introduce our entity to database level, and there is where migrations will be very helpful. We have two types of migrations: data migrations and schema migrations. So in order to introduce our entity to database, we need schema migrations. In scope of migrations, I should say that if you have too many migrations in one bundle and you're using installer, it's usually a better way to describe your recent changes in installer. So when you will be installing application, your many migrations won't run one after another very long time. But when you're starting, it's usually a good choice to create migration with installer from the start. For example, I created a ticket entity here and migration for it, and as well as installer. Installer just used migration, refers to version 1 this time. let's talk about how you can quickly create migrations even if you have to create too many entities and relations between them. You can do it by hand, but it's not very convenient, and to do it quicker you have to create entities, describe relations between them with annotations, and run doctrine schema update with dump SQL option, and you'll see SQL queries that you can run by yourself or supply force flag, and doctrine will create tables for these entities. After that you can use our OroMigration dump command, and it will generate installer with PHP code for you just in command line. You can use this code as starting point to create a new migration. It's very, very handy in case when you have too many entities. So right now let's assume that we have already created our entity and migration for it. It's already in database, and we need to create basic CRUD. I briefly describe all we need to create CRUD. So it's obvious we need a controller with actions, but in case of our way of doing things, we actually need a REST API controller, even if you don't need API, but OroCRM use REST API request for deleting entities from the grid. Let me show you how UI with custom entity looks like. Basically, it looks like any other grid in our system, and when you're trying to delete some entity, it actually does a REST API request to the server. So that is why we need regular controller as well as API controller. So regular controller, no surprise here, it's just simple actions, and in API controller the main part that you need for our basic CRUD is delete action. As well as there's few services that allows us to create basic CRUD very quickly and to separate concerns and to keep things working smoothly. So you need two controllers as well as form type for entity that is managed by this CRUD. In our case it's ticket form type, as well as you need form type for API, which is the main purpose of it is to bypass CR server protection, because API is secured with VSSE authorization. And we have to create form handlers. It's just simple classes that handle form submissions, calling form, and handling success way. Also, to make API controller work simpler and easier, we have to define services that it use. In this case, it's API manager, form handler. It's very easy when you're creating it. If in doubt, you can always refer to OroCRM source code. Let's talk about routing a little bit. So to make these things work, we need to define our routing in controller annotations, as you already saw, and in routing YAML. Let me show you briefly. Routing YAML located in Oro folder, and for basic bundle, basic CRUD, it looks like this. This is for regular controller, and this is for API controller. If you're stuck with routing, you can use route with debug command, Symfony command, to see what routes generated, etc. So after all these points, we will have all basic bricks that can work together, and we can move to final step of our CRUD, is creating views. But for views, for example, for listing our entities, our platform use grids. So we'll need grid definition and basically the views. So basic view consists of one grid that you already saw. It's something like here. And all you need to do is define just a few simple blocks and refer to grid name. So grid is a huge and broad topic, and we will not cover it in this webinar, but this is what grid definition looks like. You can specify query, columns, properties, sorters, labels, routes, etc., etc. But at this time, all we need here is this ticket name. Grid name, ticket grid. And after that, we'll be able to create such kind of index template and put here grid ID. Now, you may notice that in templates we have strings such as this translation strings. That's also what our basic CRUD needs, and translation stored in translation and messages dot, in this case en, but maybe for other languages other codes, and here's some format. So other views are also not very complex. Let's briefly see them. For example, update view it consists of several standard or blocks like page header, content data, and use data block structure to compose several items of the page. Probably we may conditionally compose them, and after that just render. For viewing it's even simpler. And one more concept in views that I should show you. Now it's widget. Widget, you can see here, our widget is done with sub request and allows you to use this piece of template that located under widget folder in several places. So let's move forward. You can define titles with OroTitles set. Again, very simple. A very simple command. You can refer to our templates. And let's discuss our main part is overriding of existing bundle. This is probably the most interesting for those of you who trying to build custom solutions based on OroCRM. And what we should start with is creating a bundle and defining who is the parent. So let's see how we did it in our example. For our webinar, we assume that we have a client that asked us a few specific questions that I talked about earlier, and this is all we need to override account bundle. So we start with this, and don't forget that we should register this child bundle as well as any other bundle. You can always check if your bundle registered correctly by opening bundles.php in your cache right here. Okay, you'll see it. Okay, so let's move forward, and the most common way of overriding things it's overriding servers. So let's assume that for importing customer entities, user want to import created at and updated at values as well. But in OroCRM platform, we have event listener. Here's event listener from OroCRM that anytime contact is saved, it's filled with created at and updated at values. So it won't let us set our own values. To change that, we override this bundle, just simple PHP way, change some logic, but to make it our application to be aware of this class, we need to properly overwrite it in dependency injection container, in our service container. And let's see how it's done. We're using this class name, but it's copied from OroCRM core, but we changed actual class from Oro to our. This is how you can overwrite any service. Let's move further and it will look like how we can customize application menu. So we already added some custom entities, and logical step from here is to show them in menu, so user will be able to navigate to them. Application menu could be defined in navigation YAML files that could be located in any bundle. In each bundle can have its own. And let's see how it looks like for simple entity. We define in items. For example, is menu item and shortcut item. Menu item is just some of these guys, and this is shortcuts. And after defining items with labels, routes, position, description, etc., we should define location of these items in application tree. In this case, I put tickets under customer tab. As you can see, customer tickets, and for the sake of example, let's assume that our customer don't need marketing menu that's located in original OroCRM. As you can see, we don't have it here. So let's assume that customer don't need it, and we can hide some menu item with such an option, displays false. But we take one item from marketing list, or from marketing menu, it's marketing list, and move it to sales tab. So it's pretty simple process. Ticket list is new item introduced here, and marketing list copied and pasted here. And as a result, you can see that here we have marketing lists under sales as in the code, and under customers we have to our custom entities, tickets and invoices. Invoice entity is defined in application bundle the same way. You can see under customer tabs. Okay, and as our client, let's assume our client asked us to provide some customization, it looks like it will be handful to have accounts also in one-click way. So rather than, let's see how it's done in original CRM, rather than going to customers and clicking accounts, we move accounts on top level to make it quicker to access. And here's how we can do it. Account list, it's how account defined in OroCRM account bundle. How we put it on top level under application menu. And as all navigation YAMLs merging, we can specify merge strategy here. In our case, we specify remove. So when this navigation YAML will be merged, this definition will be merged with OroCRM, original account item will be removed, and this one will work, as we can see. Let's return to our slides and move forward. Remember, there is one command that you probably weren't aware of is OroNavigation init. This actually responsible for make these titles work. So these titles actually titles defined for each route. These strings are root names, and these root names are defined in controller annotations. For each controller annotation you can see there's a root name. And after you define the strings, you don't forget to run this command. So the next part is about adding entities, adding fields to existing entities. As you remember from the start of our webinar, we'll try to do a few things, and for the sake of example, we add employee count under account, and also create, to achieve our end goal, we'll use migration. So we have two types of entities in our platform. It's regular entity, it's just like any other Doctrine entity, and extended entity. This is also just a big topic, and probably there was a webinar about this, but for our case we should just know that if we would like to work with our custom entities and make them able to link with existing Oro entities, they should be configurable. I will show you what it means. Let's see the code. And for example, here is our custom invoice entity, ticket entity similar, but let's see here. So basically just Doctrine entity, but have config annotation. It's Oro annotation, config and config field that allows Oro platform to store some configuration data for entities. For example, for fields, you probably understand that many entities across platform may have similar labels, like created, updated it. With this annotation, you could define default labels for such fields. In order to update existing entity, you should use migrations. And in migrations, there's two moments that I should highlight. It's order of migration and usage of extension. Ordered migrations allows you to make sure your changes you provide in your migrations are ordered in some way. So in our case, let's see how we did it and why. We have version 1 migration and have two migrations. I separated them to show you how ordered migration works. So we will first check this one. It has order 2 and will be run after migrations that has, in this case, number 1. And let's see what it does. So this one just adds employee count integer field to account and create link from account to our custom invoice entity. But to make this work, we have to use extend extension. It's our extension for migrations that allows us to work with extended entities. And to be able to our platform inject this in our migration, we should use extend extension of our interface. But to be able to make this work, we have to invoice entity that it's already exists. So we should run add invoice table migration first. That is why we set in order for migrations that creates webinar invoice higher order that's for this one. I hope this is clear. Let's move forward. let's talk about what I mentioned earlier. To be able to create relation to custom entity, we should make sure that it is at least configurable. So our platform will be able to store its data that's needed to make it work. This custom entity can also be extended, but how to do it, it's out of scope of this talk. Let's move forward and talk about overriding forms and validations. In order to achieve our goals, we should override account form. And there are a few ways of doing this. The simplest, or probably the first that comes in mind, is just using Symfony form inheritance. When you create your own form and in method getParent, you specify parent form. Let me show you some example in our platform. For example, our choice, I believe, yes. So this form type is based on simple choice. But in this case, you get another form type, and you will be forced to use it in other ways. This is good when you create something new, but not very easy, not very comfortable when you overriding. The other way is to override form class, as we did earlier in this webinar with event listener. And the best way and proposed is use form extension. Form extension is the best way because it allows us to extend forms from different bundles, which is not possible in two other ways. So let's say how we extend the form and what we did there. So in account bundle, we have to inject B2B customer into account form. So we did this extension, form type extension. As you can see, you can add here some options. We'll talk about validation a little bit later, but let's see what we done in build form. We added few listeners that allows us to add B2B customer on account form and to be able to remove fields we don't need, and to handle correctly submission and setting data in this form. Okay, so let's see how it looks like on UI first, and then I'll show you how it looks in template. Let's go to accounts, and for example, regular account form. This is our demo instance, and I'll show you not customized and customized version. So right now loading our customized version, and we'll see that we have B2B customer here, addresses. This is addresses of B2B customer, and account don't have any addresses. And invoice, it's where you can select invoices that already exist. All these fields, invoice, addresses, and B2B customer, are not present on original account form. It's just simple form. Okay, and let's talk about validation. So how you changed or overridden the form, and you probably ask yourself about and how you can change how this form validation works, and if you if you would like to add something or change something. In this talk, I concentrate on the first step and briefly show you about form type guessers. So let's see what is validation group, how we can use them. In Symfony, validation rules and constraints described in validation UML file in bundle. In each bundle for one or few entities. For example, for our custom entity, I defined few validation rules like total not blank, and null should be also not blank, and some constraint for length. And here is interesting thing about overriding OroCRM account validation constraints. If we want just to add validation for invoice, we could just do something like this and not using any validation rule. So as validation constraints are merged, and this constraint will be added to default validation group and it will work. But if you want to change something, this way actually won't let you, because as I already said, it's merging validation constraints, not replacing. In this case, what we need is validation groups. And let's say I want to change, let me show you how validation constraint looks like for account in OroCRM. Account bundle, resources, validation. Here's default OroCRM constraints for account entity. Let's say we want to change minimal name from 3 chars to 10, for example. In this case, we just copy and paste this definition from parent, and after that specify a group for each constraint, in this case for not blank, for length, and for each element. Okay, so we're ready with our constraints definition, but when I showed you form extension, I talked about validation groups. Now we should tell somehow to form that it should use this validation group instead of default one. And you can do it with set default options in your form extension, like this way. And let's see what we have on UI after implementing that. So right now here's form result demo data. Let's try to put something up. As you can see, we have validation error exactly saying that we should put at least 10 symbols. And let's show how validation works for invoice. This is, as you see, required field. If you try to put not valid constraints, see this field is immediately invalid, and when try and submit, invoice field is also invalid. You have to choose values, and only after that it could be saved. The second option is use form type guesser, but it is more advanced and more deep topic that could be separated from this talk. Let's move forward and talk about overriding controllers and routes. So basically, when you override a bundle, which we have to do in our case, let's see what we did. We put account controller in our child bundle, and override only one action to introduce B2B customer, which we can get from database based on account. To make this particular example work, we don't need any root overriding, because OroCRM parent OroCRM account bundle have only one regular controller. And in this case, in our child account bundle, we have a very simple definition just for our API controller. But let's say what we have to do if we're trying to override some bundles that have more controllers. For example, sales bundle. Let me show you OroCRM sales bundle. It has several controllers, and the way how it's done in our child account bundle, it won't work. So for sales bundle, again, we create some controller, we added, for the sake of example, some customer, extended, this controller is extended from basic OroCRM controller, and here's what we did with root definition. From first point of view, it looks like just a regular definition, but please see this exclamation mark, which pointing to actual parent bundle. And it's required because if you don't do it as in account bundle, only this particular controller, lead controller, will work. So in order to make other controllers that we don't override also work, we should use such technique that is Oro specific. Okay, let's return to slides and talk about views. I briefly mentioned views and show you the blocks, but let's see how views that we override, how it's different from regular Oro views. So let's see. We put templates that we should override in the same location with the same names, and we override an info widget and update. Usually when you override a Symfony template, you have to copy and paste it, and let's see how it's different, how our override template is different from basic OroCRM account update template. So I show you differences in a moment. So on the left, you can see template from OroCRM account bundle, and on the right you can see our override template. So in order to not copy all from parent and changing something, we copy only just one block that we need to change, in this case content data. And please note that other blocks not copied, so only content data. But in order to make this work, we have to use similar technique as in roots, exclamation mark that points to parent bundle. We need it because if we omit it, OroCRM account bundle will resolve to our child webinar account bundle. Right here, because Symfony bundle overrides works like so. So we just copied only one block and added customer field here, and using data blocks added customer address here, as I already showed you on UI. Another feature of OroCRM and Oro platform is placeholders that you can use on your views. You probably noticed placeholders template here, just in this case very simple. Placeholders are some code snippets that can be located across OroCRM UI, and you can inject your code there. To make it work, there's placeholder YAML file that you can define your placeholder right here. Something similar to a menu definition. You probably remember. You define your placeholder item template, and in placeholder section you define where to put this demo placeholder and its order. And what is the string? The string is placeholder ID, and you can look for placeholders. I'll show you how to find them to note how you can inject. For example, this placeholder located on account view. Here it is. So such code snippets allow you to inject your code here. And in a moment I'll show you how this template, our custom template located on our customized UI. Here's account view, and this placeholder located in Magento channel part. This is channel specific for Magento, and our placeholder ID refers to that. And here it is, our custom HTML. In this way you can inject in many places, and I believe it will be easier to find all placeholders. And we move into the last part of our UI customization is JavaScript modules customization. It also was covered in another webinar, but let me show you just a few examples. In order to customize something, first we need to override it. And for overriding, we use required JS YAML configuration, which is managing our client-side code. So this simple configuration describes that we override a widget picker from Oro dashboard, from OroCRM, with our own, and we injecting OroCRM widget picker into our own widget picker. That is basically all we need to actually override, and after that you are free to customize code and add new methods or override existing, as in this case done with adding new widgets. I believe we run out of time, and if you're interested in JavaScript customizations, I encourage you to view JS customization webinar. So let's briefly see what we discussed in this webinar and what we've learned. I showed you how new entity could be introduced, how it's easier to write migrations and add existing fields, add fields to existing entities, how to create CRUD for new entities and write controllers. We also talked about root definitions, root overriding, which can be a little bit trickier from first point of view, but when you try it, it will be easier. Also, I'll show you views, how you can override it, how you can customize it, use placeholders, or avoid copy and pasting the code, and also for validation, customization of forms and JavaScript a little bit. At this point, if you have some questions, we probably can proceed with them.
Thanks, Ivan.
So we have the question. We have two questions from one of our participants, and they are already asked in our chat, but let me once again answer them. First question is, what should I read to get information about how to customize REST API methods? So at the moment, in current implementation of our platform, our API controllers, API REST controllers are implemented as, our API REST methods are implemented as controllers. So it's similar controllers like any other controllers in Symfony application. So it's obvious if you want to override it, you need to read some documentation, and I sent you the link to official Symfony documentation of how you can override controllers in Symfony application. So general steps that you will need to do is extend the bundle API of which you want to customize, and replace controllers that you want to customize in this bundle, make them inherited from original controllers, and override methods that you want. And in this way you will be able to, for example, change format or add some new field to the API.
Do we have another question?
The second question was related. Yes, second question is, some templates has data blocks to field tweak templates. Can you please show to us how to extend or create a new data block and put a custom variable on a template? So I think during presentation this question was already asked, but once again, the general steps that you will need to do if you want to add some new section to your to some view, existing view on side of the OroCRM is next. So first of all, you need to extend bundle that you want to customize. For example, in this example, we have account bundle that is presented on side of customization code, and this account bundle extends OroCRM account bundle. And in this point, we are able to override the view templates of this bundle. And as you can see currently on the screen, we have this template that overrides a template from account bundle. And one thing that you need to do is to extend this template from original template, like it is shown on the screen. Ivan, could you please scroll up? Yes. And then you need to override blocks that you want to customize. So in this example, as you can see, we are overriding only one block, and all other blocks are defined in parent template, and they will not be customized in this example, so we don't need to have them here to not duplicate the code. But content data block we need to customize from our requirements, and as you can see here, we have added some new blocks that are not available on original template, like for example block with addresses of our customer. So in this way you are able to modify the templates and add some new blocks or remove blocks that are existing in OroCRM or Oro application.
Sounds good. Thank you very much, guys. It looks like we have all questions answered, and that's basically all what we wanted to show today. Thanks everyone for joining our webinar. We will continue our series next week, and thanks for your participation.
Thank you.
And just one more thing, sorry guys, we also had the release today, so please check out our latest 1.6 release. Thank you.